Hello, my name is Katie Smith and I'm your LexisNexis representative. Today we're going to talk about your first open memo assignment. The current problem that you are faced with is to find more authority that helps to identify the issues and rules and analyzes them with your case. You were started this project given some cases, and today I'll be working you through this system and showing you how to pull out good authority and to find secondary sources. My goal at the end of this is that you feel confident in tackling your first open memo assignment and that you are able to gather cases that are applicable and not spend a ton of time doing it. We're here to make you more efficient. So congratulations, you're taking the first step to being more efficient with your research. So a couple of things before we jump into the research, I just want to familiarize you with the homepage. On the homepage, you have my contact information, you have our upcoming trainings and announcements, and then also you have where you can track your points. Today, if you do the quiz at the end, you can earn 400 points, which is $5. I'd appreciate you just letting me know you're here and giving me feedback on the video if you have some time. Now, other resources available to you, we have videos here, and you can find more outlines as you prepare for finals under resources as well, or right here, be ready for class in less time. That can help you. So let's jump in. The best thing to do when you are starting an open memo assignment after you have already been given some cases to get you started is to just start with the resources you have available. So let's go ahead and let's pull up a case to dig in a little bit. And this particular problem is the covenant not to compete agreement, and we are trying to determine the application of it on particular people and the reasonableness of the agreement. So let's pull up our first case. 109 wash 2D 691. So it's important that you search with the case citation for the next steps we're going to be taking, because if you just type in Perry versus Moran, not all secondary sources that might reference this case will reference it by the actual parties to the case. They'll represent it by the case citation. So it's really an important step to make sure you're using the case citation. So the first thing we're going to do is we have this Perry versus Moran case. And I don't know about any of you, but the particular issue that I had to cover in my first open memo was on an area of law that I had never read about, I hadn't learned about. So finding secondary authority not only helps you better understand the area of law, but will make you better at arguing it. So let's go and find some secondary sources. So notice up here at the top we have my results list. So let's go there. I'm in my results list and I'm going to go over here on the left to secondary materials. And this is where we'll find our secondary sources. So a couple of things. Notice I have 33 results here. I am not too concerned about law reviews, so I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to narrow my category by selecting multiple. I'm going to go to treatise and jurisprudence. Click OK. All right, so now I've got this down to 18 resources. This is definitely something we can work through in a reasonable amount of time. So I have Washington business entities, covenants not to compete in Washington state. I have American law reports, enforceability of restrictive covenant, ancillary to employment contract. Now I'm going to open this one first. This is a broad tool. American law reports, or ALRs, they cover a wide variety of cases. So once I'm in this ALR, I'm looking for a better understanding of this concept, this enforceability of restrictive covenants. But what I'm also looking for is additional authority. So once you've read and better understand the issue or the area of law, you're going to use this resource to help find more outside authority. How do I do that? Well, I'll show you. So we have here our text. Here's a little bit of a table of contents, but the text here, it's talking in general, in the absence of an agreement between employer and employee, so on and so forth. So what you're going to do is you'll work through this document to better understand this covenant not to compete and its enforceability. But notice I have here references to additional resources, but I also have footnotes. So let's link to the footnote here. So I have my footnotes, and in your footnotes, you'll notice that it's referencing more authority, but as you're working through, you're getting cases as well. So any secondary source that you open up, you're actually going to be spending a lot of time looking at the footnotes in addition to reading the case or reading the information. So I have more information here. Cases are cited within. So this is your first exposure to easily and quickly finding additional authority without having to type in a term search yet. But sticking with these means that you're going to find cases that are talking about that concept in that area of law. So that's step one. Now an ALR, as I mentioned, is broad range. So notice I have a Connecticut case, an Ohio case. Remember, these cases are persuasive. Binding authority would be within the jurisdiction you are assigned, but I do know that some of you are tasked with finding outside authority for particular parts of your argument. So let's head back. Oh, before we do that, let's save this to my folder. So for those of you who've never created a folder, this is an efficiency tool, and it will help you, when you come back to your project, you'll start right with your first memo folder. It has everything saved to it, and you can pick up right where you left off. For instance, if I had, highlighted or, annotated a particular part of this by, I'm going to want to pick up where I left off and look at my notes and see why I saved this document. So let's go ahead and head back. And I'll keep going. We have our employment in Washington. Something worth mentioning is when you have a particular subsection open, view the table of contents first. So notice this is 1805, covenants not to compete. Let's open that view table of contents. The key reason for doing this is that you could have a section before or after that better explains what you're trying to do. So here we opened up at 1805, but each subsection we want to know, straight into enforceability. And that could help you with your efficiency. So before you spend so much time reading a certain subsection, open up that table of contents and see, okay, what else is going on here? What else information is available? So once you have fully utilized your secondary sources, you feel confident in arguing these issues, that you better understand how to do that, let's go find some case authority. So I'm going to use my history up at the top right. I'm going to go to Documents. I'm going to go back to Perry versus Moran. Now that I'm back in my case, I want to talk quickly about how do you know if you have a good case. Now you were given Perry versus Moran, but let's just take a step back here and say that this is a case we've come across in our research and finding more authority. And you're wondering, how do I quickly know if this is a case worth my time? Well, it's two-part. The first is you'll read the case summary, what's it talking about? The main thing here is the headnotes. The headnotes are the rules of law as cited in the case. You'll reference the headnotes and look to see what laws are being applied within this case. And if you determine, based on that review, that the laws you are looking to apply or argue are in this case, then the second part of this two-part test is, do they apply the law? So first, do they have the law that I'm looking for? And I'm going to use this arrow here. Jump into the opinion, and then you'll read. Push up a little bit, read before, read after. Are they applying the law? Do they build up to the analysis, to the rule? That's how you know you have a good case. It's got the rule of law you wish to talk about, and it's applying it. Because otherwise, you just don't want a mere mention, because then you're not actually building your authority here and your understanding in your argument. So we determined that this particular case we have is a good case, and it's going to be helpful for us. And so when I'm determining that, where does this case take me? Does it take me to more authority? I have a couple ways to look into that. So over here on the right, you have about this document. So you're going to open that arrow up, and you see topic summaries and legal issue trail. Activate passages. So it puts these purple boxes around certain portions of the opinion. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit back to my head notes here. And notice that you have boxes around your head notes, but you also have boxes around analysis or discussion. It's not over everything, but the reason you're going to use this legal issue trail is because you want to know more is there more authority who's making the same argument. Now, Shepard's will help you find more authority, arguing the same rules, but this other part is only the legal issue trail can help you here. So we want to know, is summary judgment appropriately applied in this issue? We want to find other cases that say it is. So hit inside the box. Once I get that open, Perry versus Moran found its authority from Yeats, and then I have all of these cases underneath Perry versus Moran that cite it for that same argument, that summary judgment is appropriate. And Emmerich, gosh, we're going to see this case a lot, but notice that it kind of goes on. They're Washington cases, but these lead you to more authority that's arguing the same thing. So that's a great way to find more authority using that legal issue trail. Heading back, I mentioned that Shepard's report. The Shepard's report is an incredible tool, and it is not going to go away. You're going to be hearing about Shepard's reports for your entire career. So let's head up to the top, and I'm going to Shepardize this document. And here's our Shepard's report signals. I'll show you where to find out what those mean, and we'll get into this. Shepardize. So here's my Shepard's report. And my Shepard's report does a couple of things. It has all of the cases that have ever cited to my case, Perry versus Moran. It has other citing sources, so we're going to look here for some other secondary sources, make sure we didn't miss anything. And when I'm using the Shepard's report, you're going to use it for two reasons. To make sure that Perry versus Moran still has good law, so the rules applied in Perry are still valid. And then you're also going to use it to find more authority, so as a research tool. And the first thing you'll do is look at the analysis section. You want to determine if the rules of law you wish to use Perry for are still good. And the first thing I'm going to do is narrow by these distinguished by. So distinguished by means that a judge has decided that certain rules of law that Perry has, they weren't quite applied as they would like them to have been, so they're going to distinguish themselves from that application of the law. They're not overturning it, but they're just not going to follow it. So look here under Emmerich, you have two instances. This is a prime example of why Shepard's is better, is distinguished by and followed, and it pulls out those distinctions. And so I'm working with head note 1, so over here on the right hand side, I'm going to select head note 1. And so it opens up where head note 1 is referenced in our Emmerich case. And I'm trying to determine, is Emmerich, distinguishing the application of this rule? And what you'll do is you'll see here, here's the rule, and you'll read. And you'll see, okay, what are they saying? Is it good? Is it bad? What's going on? So that's how you can quickly determine if that particular rule of law is still good or not. Let's head back. Once you've determined whether or not your rule of law is still valid, you can then use your Shepherd's report. Let's go ahead and clear this. Down here, we'll scroll down, and you can see we have other state courts available, so if you're trying to find sources outside of Washington. But you have your head notes. So now I just want to narrow this report by only those cases that reference my rule. We've determined that we know MREC distinguishes for some reason, but we have all of these other cases. So this is more authority. It can narrow by, followed by. So I have 10 instances where cases are following Perry versus Moran for head note 1. Go through those the same steps we talked about. You'll click on the head note here. It'll open up the case and you can see the application and argument. Remembering while you're opening a case, it has to have the rule of law you wish to apply and it needs to analyze it to be a good case for you. So that's how you're going to utilize your Shepherd's report to find more authority and make sure you still have good law. Going back up, I mentioned we have other citing sources. So let's jump in here real quick. I'm going to narrow this by treatises. And notice we have some additional resources here. Employment in Washington came up again. We have Milgram on trade secrets. So it's covering a little bit more than you saw initially in your first secondary source look and that results list. But more than likely these were all mentioned just further down in that list of results. So this is just a good way to make sure you didn't miss anything and keep you right on track with your argument. So once you have, taken a break or you need to pick up where you left off, you're going to go over here to More, and you're going to find your folders. I'm going to go to my first memo. And this is where you're going to find all your resources and pick up where you left off. So I hope you found today helpful. Let's recap quickly. We walked you through how to find secondary sources using the cases you've been given by heading over to your results list. Then we walked through using the case at hand, going through the legal issue trail, and also going through a Shepherd's report. This is just supposed to get you started. If at any time you have more questions or concerns, you can just reach out to me. I know how to help you. If you are in the group that was not doing the covenant not to compete argument, just reach out and I can help you make the necessary connections to your particular problem. I hope you found today helpful. Please don't forget to do the quiz at the end. It's really just saying that you're giving me your name, that you took the time to watch the video. I appreciate your time and good luck.